Each February, Montgomery County Parks celebrates Black History Month. But did you know there are programs and events throughout the year too? Stay tuned to find out more.
Montgomery Parks has 4 fabulous African-American sites that focus on the African-American experience within Montgomery County. We have in the Sandy Spring only area, our Woodlawn Manor Cultural Park has the Underground Railroad Experience Trail hikes. We also have Oakley Cabin, African-American Museum and Park in Brookville. And then in Silver Spring area, we have the Harper Cabin at Brookside Nature Center, and our newest historic site for the African-American experience is the Josiah Henson Park in North Bethesda.
So Black history is really preserved through our parks, and it's not just through existing, but it's also through acquisition. We look at Josiah Henson Park and what's looking to happen there. We look at Woodlawn Manor, all these great facilities that continue to bring about the spirit of what was there in the past, and making sure that that's there for new generations to continue to learn from. And so it's a great partnership that we see between a lot of our historical African-American community that still exists here in Montgomery County, working with our park system to identify a lot of these places, and by parks acquiring these facilities and preserving them and making sure that there are educational fronts that are there so that people can learn from them as well.
So here we are at the new Josiah Henson Park. I still say new, although Parks acquired it in 2006. But it's at this park that our story of the African-American experience really begins, with the exploration of what life during enslavement was like. And we do that through the exploration of Reverend Josiah Henson's life growing up here on the Riley Plantation throughout much of his life. So Josiah Henson was born enslaved in Charles County and was acquired by Isaac Riley here when he was around 5 or 6, around 1795. And it is here at the Riley Plantation at that point in Rockville that he grew up and became, while here enslaved, the overseer for this plantation, or superintendent as he called himself. He grew up to be a very strong, physically strong young man, as well as one who had a very strong moral center and was a profound leader within this community of enslaved folks who are here, as well as once he escapes to freedom, and that's in 1830. He and his wife, his 4 children, escaped to freedom to Ontario, Canada, and there established Dawn Settlement, which is a community for escaped slaves from the United States. And it's here that a school is established, training programs are established for those newly freed blacks who are coming from the United States, who were once enslaved, who are now finding opportunities to begin their own lives. 1849, Josiah Henson pens his autobiography. He dictates the story of his life in an effort to raise funds so that he can free his brother, who's held in slavery here in Maryland. And once this autobiography is picked up and it's read by people all throughout the North and throughout European countries, in 1852, a more famous book is written, and that's the novel written by Harriet Beecher Stowe, Uncle Tom's Cabin. And it is Uncle Tom's Cabin, once it's realized that the main character of Uncle Tom is fashioned after the life of the Reverend Josiah Henson, then his fame really grows. And he finally acknowledges this, as does Mrs. Stowe in her 1853 A Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin. From there, the Reverend Henson's life changes tremendously, because now we have a former slave who had become a minister, who is now a community leader, a teacher, who is now asked to travel abroad and talk about his life story in an effort to help abolish slavery here within the United States. that's not all in his activities. He also is a conductor on the Underground Railroad. Using the connections that he has made through his escape from Kentucky through Ohio and to New York and then Canada, he then retraces those steps and brings over 100 people to freedom to Canada. What the Underground Railroad was a secret network of people that helped slaves escape to freedom. So you have people who were both black, white, free, enslaved that helped move those freedom seekers from the South into the North, into Canada, into other areas where they would be able to be free to live out their lives. When you come to the Josiah Henson Park, you'll learn more of his life here in Montgomery County. You'll have an opportunity to explore a little of what remains of the Riley plantation here. What's unique about our Josiah Henson Park is that it's also an ongoing archaeological exploration site. And our archaeologists are in search of life during that time when Josiah Henson grew up here at the Riley plantation, evidence of what life was like during the early 1800s, as well as that for the Riley family. Currently, at the Josiah Henson Park, we are open for tours, especially for school field trips. We have a new archaeology-based school field trips for our students, grades 4 through 8. Along with that, we'll have our special events throughout the year in which we're open. We'll be open during Black History Month, again when our season begins in April, during Montgomery County's Heritage Days, and then at the end of our season during Maryland's Emancipation Day. So the future for the park is for us to become a state-of-the-art museum where not only will you be able to come and tour the historic home of the Riley family, the log kitchen, and walk the grounds where Reverend Henson himself walked, but there'll also be a visitor center on site where you can come and gather and take home information about Reverend Henson. To donate to the Josiah Henson Park and this museum project, just contact Montgomery Parks Foundation for more information.
During Black History Month, Montgomery Parks offers these free events at Josiah Henson Park. Hope to see you there. And when we come back, more history in the parks.
So the Underground Railroad Experience Trail guided hikes focus on sharing with visitors what that experience would be.
Those things in order to make a successful escape.
If you were a freedom seeker during the 1800s wanting to find escape to freedom outside of Montgomery County and Maryland and heading to the northern states and even as far north as Canada.
Canada is the land of freedom. So we have map songs and we have spiritual songs.
The guided hikes will take place each Saturday throughout the season, from April through that first weekend in November. But during March, we also begin our school field trips there. And we will have school field trips that will encompass the house, the grounds, as well as the trail that we'll be doing at Woodlawn Manor Cultural Park.
What I'll tell you about dandelions is that you have to boil them.
Our new visitor center, which is located at Woodlawn Manor Cultural Park, has exhibits within the historic 1832 stone barn that focus on the Quaker heritage, particularly within the Sandy Spring area, and we also explore the agricultural practices of this period of the 19th century that impact much of the county, these new innovations into agriculture for this time period. From the 1820s until this family owns it through the 1920s. Visitor Center will be opening next spring in 2016, and we've completed it. We've had some visitors that have come through and kind of done a sneak peek. Many of our council men and councilwomen have come through and enjoyed our new high-tech and low-tech interpretations of the barn.
I spent many an evening in his company.
Oakley Cabin is one of the oldest of the African American sites that Parks has been interpreting well over 25 years. It is the 19th century log cabin built around the mid-1800s, and what you will find when you come out is what was originally built as a slave quarter is now a site where we can interpret the Reconstruction era and life post the Civil War for African American families, what it meant, this new freedom and being able to create their own communities with their own churches and schools, and what education means to these new freed families.
Made by a member of the Swales family, and the Swales lived in one of these 3 cabins.
Oakley Cabin is one of 3 cabins that remain on this property that was home to African American tenant farm families.
The last guy to live here. And he lived here from sometime in the 40s until 1976.
It housed anywhere from 7 to 10 members in a family within the cabin. And we know from our research that the tenants were not only farmers but skilled craftspeople. We have carpenters and blacksmiths and laundresses and midwives who lived all within this little community within Brookville. Oakley Cabin is open seasonally between April and the end of October. We close up for the season in the first weekend of November because there we're celebrating Maryland's Emancipation Day. Oh, the Thomas Harper homestead is at Brookside Nature Center. It's another site that's been within the park's inventory for several decades. The Harper cabin was originally the home for Thomas and Elizabeth Harper, who lived in Jonesville, which is in the Poolsville area. And the house was originally built in the 1870s, this log cabin. And over time, it has housed their family, their descendants, until the early part of the 20th century when it changed ownership. And then at that time, it was donated to Montgomery Parks and dismantled and moved from Poolsville and brought over to the Brookside Nature Center park area. And there they have interpreted the history of the Harper family through this cabin, exploring what life was like during also this period after the Civil War for this new freed family. We also have contact with the descendants of the Harper family, and so during special events they have come out and shared family histories with us and the public, and it's a wonderful site. When you visit the Harper homestead at Brookside Nature Center, you'll find that the interpretation explores not only the life of the Harper family during the 1870s in the log cabin, you'll also be able to experience farm life that extends into the outdoor areas. There is a smokehouse there on site, there are crafts, living history demonstrations that can be enjoyed when you come over to the Nature Center. And during February, during Black History Month, Brookside Nature Center will be hosting their Maple Sugar Festival. And during the time period, hopefully you'll have an opportunity to come out and visit the Harper Cabin and tour it. So for us to bring history to life for our visitors to the various historic sites throughout Parks, we couldn't do it without our most fantastic corps of volunteers, of which we have the best. And if you would like to become a volunteer within our historic sites, all you have to do is go to parksvolunteers.org. Here you can sign up to become a trained conductor and lead guided hikes on the Underground Railroad Trail, or you could become a trained guide or docent for the Oakley Cabin, African American Museum, or the Josiah Henson Park. We even have opportunities for within our archaeology department where we bring on volunteers to help with digs or to do interpretation of sites like the Josiah Henson Park.
To learn more about volunteering, special events, or historic African American sites in Montgomery Parks, go to historyintheparks.org.